and it's quite a thrill to be in the heart of the Meow Wolf here, and very pleased that you all found your way into this part of the complex. Try to see your parents more, cause they're so weak and old now, but they just can't let you live without always being told how. Then spend time with your child, be responsible and silent, but you lose it, then you know that you're a monster and a tyrant. It's family, so you call because you're too grown up to fume, but somehow you've hung up and thrown the phone across the room, cause you're a weakling and a loser, you just never get it right. Down from the way that you were raised to how your own home is tonight. These are the ones you love the best, so why is it always such a mess? And what the hell's it for? Since you're rotten to the core, well, it's fun. It's just fun. Pick out someone friendly who romantically excites you. Start the hopeful dreaming of what if he or she likes you. Know that you could love them and build up a blissful fantasy that this is finally something and how good your lives would be, but then feel wretched when it's clear it's just your far-fetched dumb idea. Remember that you're lame and ugly, groan and cry. Why would they love me? Why even try to cope? And why even have hope? You're disgusting, that's for sure. So what's hoping for? Well, it's fun. That's just fun. No, your only joy would be a life of creativity, so never have a moment when you're actually at liberty. Live a life where friends or relaxation leaves you irking, cause it's wasting time with nonsense when you know you should be working. First see your glowing promise as an actor or a painter, then get honest, you're a hack who knows their glow is getting fainter. Then know your life's been total dirt and wish you could begin again. Then crumple one more worthless work and toss it in the bin again. You hung your head against the desk and suffered in the agony of coming face to face against that stuff that you can never be. It's lame and infantile, all this stupid useless trial, frustrations and impatience and complete humiliation. You're just not fortunate, that's certain, so why this tortured screaming burden? Well, it's fun. It's just fun. Well, this is the special Quasi featuring Birds tour. Really happy to get to see a bit of the Quasi nationwide featuring Birds tour. So I figured I'd try to do a song about birds just to join in the festivities. But being from New York City, it's like the whole phenomenon of listening to a bunch of birds is sort of somewhat alien. I'm used to hearing car horns and people screaming and bottles breaking and things like that. But when I'm in the country, I'm like, whoa, what are all these weird sounds all around? All these crazy bird sounds. That's quite chaotic, really, when you hear a bunch of them going in the woods. So here's a song about all the noise that those birds make. Birdies in the wood aren't up to any good. They just chirp in every way as if they have all day. They get up around the dawn and just turn the battle on. Each nest from east to west has got to have its say. I wonder what the purpose of a happy little chirp is. Are they really unaware that none of us will care? Like speaking at a stone or a tree that falls alone. It's a dark and bleak cacophony of beaks out there. If I lived in a tree or if I could flap a wing, I think that I would be a rather quiet thing. I think that it's absurd that every loudmouth bird seems determined to be heard to get the final word. The birdies up above never learned the value of keeping quiet just to listen. They don't think of all they're missing. They talk over each other, every kid and dad and mother. They think dissonance is pleasant, but they don't know it isn't. No rhyming, no rhythm, it's abysmal their condition. Vocalize with all their power like they're in a private shower. But they're in public spaces that they share with other races. But if weather's good, forget it, they'll never shut their feathered faces. From species to genus, from kingdom to phylum. When you hear them try to sing, it's like a lunatic asylum. Disrupting nice surroundings with their shouting up and down. They make 1,000 truly clueless noises, and this is the sound. All the birds flap and never think of what would happen if they grew good ears like people and can merely hear like we do, they would say, birds sound like chaos, wouldn't listen if you pay us. They'd apologize profusely and they'd finally obey us. They'd finally be silent, harmony would triumph. Their loyalty would go to us and all would be melodious. With peace and all these trees and birdies listening to reason, I expected all would be much more respectable and decent. But they're insubordinate and they keep on rocking it. They don't stick a cork in it, they won't stick a sock in it. Like oil with a match in it, all keeps on catching. And here's all we'll hear if they all keep on hatching. Well, I was a big fan of the band Silver Jews and the songwriter David Berman, who's a great lyricist, and I had all their records, and I got asked to do some artwork for the record that he was working on in 2019. He ended up killing himself later that year, just right after the record came out, but I did get to do some artwork for that album. But in the email correspondence that we had when he was discussing the kind of art he wanted for the record, he also asked me to write a song. And he had a suggestion for a song that I should write, and he had the title and a few suggestions as to what would happen in the lyrics. So the title that he said I should use to make a song around was, I want to do something illegal with Amy Rose Spiegel. Apparently that was a friend of his, or something, and he said the lyrics should be about a couple that have no, like, real, there's nothing sexual about it. It's just that they enjoy committing petty crimes together and they have a special kind of friend relationship. And he made a list of suggestions of what kind of petty crimes they could commit, like tearing the tags off a pillow and going bowling in street shoes and things like that, paying for something while slipping in a Canadian quarter. And I had a counter suggestion, which was that maybe what if like there were sort of more major crimes mixed in, and it was like we could do these big crimes, but like, or we could at least do these little crimes. But somehow it was just a little email exchange, and then a couple months later, I heard that he had actually killed himself, which was quite shocking, of course, and very tragic. And then I was like, wait, I never wrote the damn song. What was wrong? What did I have to do other than write the song? David Berman asked me to write a song, and I somehow was like, I gotta do laundry today or something. So I ended up then I immediately just sat down and wrote the song. So this is the song that I can't entirely take credit for. This was David Berman's idea. This is, I want to do something illegal with Amy Rose Spiegel. I want a world where love and brains and beauty are the only law. And there's a girl he met named Amy Rose, and I never said it, but I guess she knows that I just want to be her friend and do something illegal with Amy Rose Spiegel. We wouldn't be rapey or murdery, just auto thefty or arsony. I'd even settle for a romantic act of harmless petty larceny. We could sow a swath of anarchy from Maine to Amarillo, or just go bowling in our street shoes and tear the tags off of a pillow. Cause there's a girl I met named Amy Rose, and I never said it, but I guess she knows that I just want to be her friend and do something illegal with Amy Rose Spiegel. She loved that I'm so obsolete, she loved that I'm so obscure. She's so free and I'm just me, and we'd rock culture to its core. We'd go Bonnie and Clyde style, and we'd go crashing and burn style. Or at least I could be her lookout if she needs to jump a turnstile. We could rob banks hand in hand, then skip the Mexican border, or at least pay for a sandwich, slipping in a Canadian quarter. She'd text poetic esoterics, and no, I'd understood it. I'd say next let's shoplift topless, she'd say no, cause where'd we put it? And there's this girl I met named Amy Rose, and I never said it, but I guess she knows that I just want to be her friend and do something illegal with Amy Rose Spiegel. She's so revolutionary, literate and bright, and I'm a darkness-addled piece of shit, but I'm basically alright. We roll the dice on daring heists and share a life of crime, or just pay for one bottomless cup of coffee and share it 2 ways at the diner. We seize 2 midlife crises and get middle-aged medieval, cause I just wanna do something everybody knows would be illegal. With Amy Rose Spiegel, I want a world where I get to see what all doomed lovers saw. I want a world where love and brains and beauty are the only law. I want a world in which the sad and free are poetry together, with broken laws, a hopeless cause, and cool best friends forever. Cause there was a girl he met named Amy Rose, and it had no promise, I suppose, but something in her eyes had some bad influence on him, and all that certain women and certain guys can do is something criminal. That I drew on the rigged up screen over here. I make these things that I call low budget films, and here's a special action adventure low budget film that we're going to present to you this evening. A story about a special character. It's Champion Jim. He was a man. Look you in the eye and shake your hand. Many men were proud to be his friend. He was a well-liked man, Champion Jim. Champion Jim, he had a shack. He built it by the sweat of his own back. I'll bet it stands up there till the world ends. He always did his best, Champion Jim. Champion Jim, he played guitar. People came to hear him from afar. The girls would tremble just to hear him sing. He played and he sang, Champion Jim. Champion Jim had one enemy, a giant goon named Samuel Celery. They had had a lifelong feud since they were 9 or 10. Sam Celery and Champion Jim. Well, Champion Jim was whittling with his knife, and Sam snuck up behind to take his life. He shot a bullet that went right through his bone and skin, and it landed in the heart of Champion Jim. But Champion Jim, he was so good. He carved himself a brand new heart made out of wood. He whittled it down and he hammered it right in. Just in the nick of time, Champion Jim. Hooray! Well, Champion Jim was sleeping in his bed, and Sam snuck in and sawed off both his arms and legs, rolled him to the lake and tossed him in, to sink deep down to the bottom, Champion Jim. Champion Jim was as good as dead, Sam thought. Without his legs, he couldn't kick like he ought, and without arms, it would be difficult to swim. And so Sam bid adieu to Champion Jim. But Champion Jim, he wasn't done. He paddled back to shore just with his tongue. He lay in the sun until he was dry again, and he was almost as good as new, Champion Jim. Well, Champion Jim had to slightly change his style, but he learned how to play guitar just with his smile, and he could do most of the farm work with his chin, and he did even better than before, Champion Jim. Well, I'll dedicate this song to anybody who's in a band. Some advice I wish somebody had given me earlier on, but it's called "Don't Let the Record Label Take You Out to Lunch." Don't let the record label take you out to lunch. You're the one who's gotta pay at the end of the day. Now try not to want people to like you too much. You'll just need more and more flatteries to recharge your batteries. And don't let showmanship get more important than honesty. If you don't want to be so many singers, you see, you don't have to act crazy to do something amazing. You can be just like you should and still do something really good. And even when you know there's nobody listening, say it to yourself, 'cause it's good for your health. I know nothing makes sense if you think too much. Religions, pigeons, radios, and televisions, and it takes so much strength just not to suck. And not to be a cynic looking for another gimmick, but you're distraught at the thought of leaving everything again. And they say it's not the way you play the game, it's if you win. But don't let the record label take you out to lunch. Every sip of soup has got to get recouped. Then you get a good review, and then you get a bad review. Don't get suckered either way, 'cause none of them know you. And don't let the record label take you out to lunch, 'cause they'll call you a cab and put it on your tab. I'm leaving town for a while, but I'll be in touch. One thing I know is true is that I got a lot to do, and that it takes big heart to make great, great art. And you're just a little dot in a great big pot. But now that you've started and it's hard to stop, and you've been wondering at night about the wrong and right. And is somebody your savior if you owe them back a favor? No, they're not, so there's only one choice that you got. Don't let the record label take you out to lunch. Though the fishes look delicious, someone's gotta do the dishes. People might say you're insane or just looking to complain. You need them more than they need you, so don't bite the hand that feeds you. Everyone's been nice and you consider them a friend, but everything still has a price and you don't want to overspend. 'Cause it's your wallet and your soul when the check comes in the end. No matter what the situation, art, love, occupation, I'll hold off on the hors d'oeuvres, that's not what I'm in it for. I only want what I deserve, I want no less, I want no more. Here's a song about records. This is a song about how my lifetime of music buying addiction got started. It got started with buying cheap classic rock vinyl records, because as a teenager in the 90s, they were dirt cheap. Nobody wanted these things, so that was how I got into LPs. That's how I got the disease for LPs. So here's a song about it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Well, I don't know how it started. I suppose it was about the 10th grade. I had never bought much music, I just listened to whatever was played. But there was classic rock there on the radio, and it was blowing my mind. And it was all the records no one wanted now, so they were easy to find. So I started getting LPs, they only cost a little, and these LPs were all the ones I needed from the 60s, with psychedelic art on all the great sleeves, was cooler and much cheaper than the CDs, and that's the way I caught the disease. I caught the disease for LPs. There wasn't any internet, a lot of times you just took a shot. Pretty soon you figured out which records would be awesome or not. If the year was from the 60s, it was probably good bang for your buck. If the year was from the 80s, it was guaranteed to totally suck. I started learning about the LPs, and downtime education just cost low fees. $3 for the Dylan record, yes please. And the Cream and Rolling Stones and Arlo Breeze. A giant treasure trove was all for pennies, and that's the way I caught the disease. I caught the disease for LPs. By 1994, I had completed all my Zeppelin and Floyd. I had all the early traffic, but their later stuff just made me annoyed. You realize that the radio just scratches at the top of the dirt. When $4 can buy you Crown of Creation with the lyric insert. So I had a lot of LPs. My friends were mostly clueless. It was just me in an ocean of cheap vinyl like the Black Sea. I hardly had an income, but it was easy. And all awesome world awaited with a cheap key. And sometimes in the garbage they were just free. And that's the way I caught the disease. I caught the disease for LPs. And then the 90s ended and I wasn't no teenager no more. But I started getting shakes if I was passing any used record store. I got the finger muscles you develop when you flip through a stack. Crate digging for the cheap and obscure, and there was no turning back. A total junkie for the LPs, and nothing in the world was gonna help me. You'd see me quit no sooner than see hell freeze. And there was nothing like the thrill of getting lucky. I'd be flying 5 sheets to the breeze. Cause the world is still awash in LPs. And I still had the disease for LPs. Nowadays, the stuff is so expensive, I don't bother to try. Everything's been picked over and everything's priced really high. The field is overcrowded, it's impossible to get a good fix. So I walk right past the records, and I flip through all the used compact discs. And nowadays it's mostly CDs, no one wants to keep them, so there's plenty. Folk and punk and private press and rap and indie. Bonus tracks and liner notes are just empty. As long as I can still make a good discovery, I've still got that music hunger disease. That disease that I got from LPs. When they were dirt cheap in the 1990s. Yeah, whatever people don't want, that's the time to get it. Take a chance on something that might blow your mind. If it's cheap, there's less chance you'll regret it. Now I'm drowning in my stacks with all the stupid albums I used to try. Nowadays, looking back, I just regret the ones that I didn't buy. Fighting for survival is such a boring battle. I want to get into my car, I want to drive out to Seattle, where the used record stores have much better prices. But I don't have a car and I don't have a license. Should I take another walk to the DMV? Get another learner's permit with a picture of me? I put it in my wallet along with my $4 and the condom that's still in there that has probably expired. I'd leave home for New York, but New York is where I'm from. I'm just looking for a way to feel my life has begun. Living in this city where I'm working like a walrus, but I don't need your money, man, I'm gonna be an artist. Feeling like I wanna do whatever I feel inside. Put it all on paper and I'll hope that people buy it. And my only minor worry now is how to pay the rent. But that won't even matter when I've lost my apartment. I'll really have no worries, I'll be just like a cassette that you've taped up the tabs of to put something new on it. And when I hit record, God only knows what I will be. And if there is no God, then it's a better mystery. Fighting for survival, but I guess I must be winning. And my story is so long I can't remember the beginning. But am I an optimist or am I a pessimist? If I see that half full, half empty cup is half full of nothingness. Thanks. We'll do a few more songs for you before Quasi plays. That's Mallory Feuer of the band Grasping Straws. Joining me for this part of the tour. Very glad to have Mallory along. Even though it almost didn't happen because there was that massive, weird computer outage all over the world today. So Mallory's flight to meet me from New York got all delayed, and we were like, wait, if I pick her up from the airport, then I don't know if we'll be able to make it to Santa Fe, but then, I don't know. It was all crazy, but then we made it, so it all worked out. So, you can come and say, we have a bunch of merchandise out at the tables out there. Comic books, shirts, CDs, many items. Quasi has a bunch of cool, it's very rare that I get to play gigs with a band that has almost as much cool merchandise stuff as we have, but Quasi really puts up a good fight in the merch department. They got zines, silkscreen posters, multiple awesome shirt designs, records, so yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff out there. And when it comes to interesting stuff, I mean, this is quite a place. I feel like I don't know, have you guys all been to Meow Wolf before? You're all familiar with this? This is actually my first time playing in Santa Fe. I'm like, is this what all the venues look like around here? Where has Santa Fe been all my life? This is really something. Speaking of having never been to Santa Fe before, we don't really know anybody in this area. Usually on tour, we just stay with friends or family at every place we go, but we do have somebody who had contacted me and offered a place to stay, but there's at least one cat there, and having a cat allergy in the band, we're kind of, maybe one of you might have a place where the two of us can sleep tonight. We've got sleeping bags with no cats, less meow. Wolf is okay, but we're allergic to the meow end of things. But we do have a place to stay, so we won't be homeless regardless. We'll just use it a bit or something like that. But yes, if anybody has a couch, floor space, whatever, talk to us at the merch table. Unless you're allergic to indie rockers, that could be a problem. We have Benadryl that we can share with you, yes. So in the front row, somebody sneezed, so that's a sure sign. All right, well, we'll do a couple more. And then Quasi will be, well, yeah, right. Well, we have, I'm going to do at least one more illustrated thing, too. But we'll do this song. 1, 2, 3. The Misfits are cold rock and roll, worshipped by a few but ignored on the whole. Meet the Feebles is a film cult classic. It's basically unknown, but some say it's fantastic. Most women that I meet seem totally unfazed, so sometimes there's somebody who seems totally amazed. I might not be in magazines as a heartthrob face, but in a few devoted hearts I found a strong fan base. I'm a cold boyfriend, not a mainstream show. I'm lonely or I'm worshipped by a lady in the know. When you're a cold boyfriend, life is always intense. They love me or they hate me, no one's on the fence. Sarah Best is a cult comic book series. It's got fans, but it's never found in movies or in theories. WFMU is a cult radio station, always tuned to by a few devoted fans around the nation. For every time I couldn't get a second date or even first, why does one think I'm the best when all the rest think I'm the worst? For all of those times, no one at all wanted to know if I'm really all that awesome. Wouldn't more women think so? I guess cold boyfriend is the term for me. It's always been quality, not quantity. A cold boyfriend's like a record in a bargain bin. No one knows its worth till a collector comes in. Who are some cult literary names I can honor? Maybe J.G. Ballard or Flannery O'Connor. Haggis and Fugu, that's like food for cult eaters. Jim Jones, Father Yod, Charles Manson, they're cult leaders. Anyway, the point being, do we have to be magical? Can't we date a few months and move on normal and casual? Suicidally alone and then totally smothered. It's so much pressure when you go from one extreme to the other. I guess cold boyfriend is the term for me. It's always been quality, not quantity. A cold boyfriend's like a record in a bargain bin. No one knows its worth till a collector comes in. I'm a cold boyfriend, not a mainstream show. I'm lonely or I'm worshipped by a lady in the know. When you're a cold boyfriend, life is always intense. They love me or they hate me, no one's on the fence. And this song probably ain't gonna go very far beyond an open mic. It's guaranteed, though, to be the sort of thing 2 or 3 people really like. All right, the next low-budget film project we'll show here is going to be a documentary film. I have this long documentary film series on the complete history of communism, and I'll show one of those chapters. But actually, technically, this is a story of in the history of democratic socialism, not technically communism. This one, for those of you in the audience who are going to launch that complaint as soon as I said, coming up next is the story of Chile. And we'll be backed up by our bandmates who couldn't be here tonight with us playing this gig. I have them in this iPod, so they're gonna help us out from the iPod. Down the coast of South America. Oh darn it, band in the iPod. You're on with it, yeah. Down the coast of South America rolls Chile, long and green. A land once ruled by Inca that was colonized by Spain. The colony claimed independence in 1818, but they let the inequalities of conquest still remain. By the early 1900s, Chile mined its copper ore, and the U.S. businessmen that owned the mines were billionaires. While a few wealthy Chileans owned all land, the rest were poor. But democracy brought votes, and voting everybody shares. So by the 50s, votes brought socialists like Salvador Allende, who asked why Chile's mines should be for U.S. businessmen. And he said, we don't want violence, may our voting change things gently. And though he lost the race for president 3 times, he ran again. And the 60s generation saw the votes for changes grow, as the peasant Victor Jara sang of better days to come. And the 60s president did make some changes, but too slow. And in the vote of 1970, this time Allende won. And in the US, Kissinger and Nixon heard this and exploded. We're supposed to love democracy, but really, who are they kidding? Our corporations make the rules. Who cares what Chile voted? Allende must be smashed, but our involvement must stay hidden. So in secret, Nixon asked that Chile's army stop Allende, but Chile's General Schneider told them absolutely not. So the CIA contacted lesser men in Chile's army, and in October 1970, these men had Schneider shot. With Schneider gone, new generals came who weren't quite as loyal. But still Allende trusted they'd respect the people's vote. And a new vote now said Chile owned the mines on Chile's soil, and the wealth of copper now could fund the new laws that they wrote. So wages rose for workers, education spread like fire. There was milk for hungry children, landless peasants now had farms. And Allende promised peace, but Chile's rich called him a liar, while anti-Allende forces blew up roads and gathered arms. Then the truckers went on strike to protest rules they hadn't chosen. And the owners of the factories made all factories shut down, while the CIA sent funding to the truckers to stay frozen. No food could reach a city, and no supplies could reach a town. But the new tool, CyberSign, created new kinds of connections, where the public linked in real time what they need and what to get. Now families and factories could just share their own directions, and that's how Chile solved the shutdown with the world's first internet. But the new VP of Pepsi owned the news and televisions. He said peasants were bandits and Allende was the worst. And respectable Chileans have to make a bold decision, because our rich life will get ruined if Allende's not stopped first. With the army's new commander, then Augusto Pinochet, they knew if they took charge, the U.S. would be their supporter. They knew before elections came, they must strike right away. Then they could claim, we're Chile's heroes, bringing back old law and order. So on the 11th of September in the year 73, in a burst from tanks and planes, the presidential building burned, and the military shut the country down so silently. Allende's government was dead before the news returned. Then all those months through Chile spread the prison camps and murders, hopeful voices put to torture, pulled apart to disappear. Victor Jara's hands were crushed to stop his music being heard, and with his death there died all voted for the next 17 years. And America and Britain loved how Pinochet saved business. But what are people worth to them when push comes down to shove? The giant thefts of history are always what begins this, and if the people vote for change, they'll feel the fist beneath the glove. Pinochet stole millions while he ruled through wealth and terror over people who'd once voted, using no guns and no fists, where people who dreamed different now disappeared forever for the fatal crime of thinking that democracy exists. And so went Chile's dreamers, so went Jara and Allende. So came death, though Chile's path of peace is how they got there. But they'd seen history's maps of greed and hate and sailed a new way. And seeking someplace new, sailors that die don't mean it's not there. Thanks a bunch. I'll do one more song here. Or do we have time for two? I think I just have time for. I'll just do one more. Well, speaking of democracy and speaking of horrible people, I don't know about everybody around here, but personally, I'm one of those people who's very, very, very anti-Trump. And I'm basically going to do everything that I can to try to put the final nail in the coffin of his political career, which means doing everything I can to get the votes out for Biden or whoever happens to be at the top of the Democratic ticket. So I'm doing a bunch of volunteer work, campaign work, phone banking, door-to-door stuff in swing areas, and it's really obviously getting down to the wire. Trump's ahead by a couple of percentage points in polls, so if anybody wants to find out about the kind of stuff that I'm doing in that regard, talk to me at the merch table. This next song has nothing whatsoever to do about that, but just figured I'd ruin whatever goodwill I might have accumulated by talking politics for a moment. We look back and say, people were morons. They were lunatics, numbskulls, and harebrains. Because in the old days, the bars allowed smoking, and ashtrays were built into airplanes. Such schmucks, those poor nicotine addicts, they'd freak out if 1 hour or a minute their mouth should feel nervous or naked without some cigarette to stick in it. Yeah, but if you could give me the choice now to end up as a lung cancer crone, to be hooked on Marlboros or Camels, versus now being hooked on my phone, well, at least smoking looked freaking badass for rebels and rock bands and rappers, men and women who did things their own way, cool cowboys and beatniks and flappers. But right now with my smartphone addiction, just like yours, just like hers, just like theirs, we're all shopping at one big McDonald's with one drug for both rebels and squares. And I know future folks will all mock us, call us dumbasses, clowns, and unfortunates, falling prey to an all-day addiction, willing slaves to the corporate extortionists. They'll look back and say, people were morons. They were lunatics, numbskulls, and harebrains. Because in old times, the bars allowed smartphones, and USB ports were built into airplanes. Such schmucks, those poor phone and web addicts, they freak out if 1 hour or minute their eyes should feel nervous or naked without some kind of phone to stick in it. Those old smokers at work desks or discos, we look back and say, God, they were clueless to puff away, hooked in all places. No modern smart person would do this. Such smokers, such exploited suckers, so deceived by the cruel corporations that would prey on their poor helpless lung cells with that addiction that swept through all nations. But now we're so smart and so healthy, we'd never be such hopeless junkies. Yeah, but now we're addicted to smartphones. It's the new trick that's made us all monkeys. We say, gee, won't the smoker just quit it? Go cold turkey, be brave, be empowered. Because in cars or in rock clubs or diners, you keep clutching your smokes like a coward. Yeah, we look down our nose at those addicts at the terrible things smokers did. They couldn't stop it at work time or playtime. They'd even do it in front of their kid. Yeah, but if I try to go one day without phones, let alone get to total sobriety, those smokers would run rings around me. They'd all laugh while I die from anxiety. So just see who the more helpless victim is with the addiction that keeps us unfocused, that now preys on our poor helpless weaknesses and swarms earth like a ravenous locust. So those smokers were just downright lucky, man. It was possible at least to kick those things. Now watch me step out, light up, and check Instagram, cause my dumb ass is addicted to both things. But we look back and say people were morons. They were lunatics, numbskulls, and harebrains. Cause in old times the bars allowed smartphones and USB ports were built into airplanes.